We saw Riggins head to the sideline. Nick Giaquinto and Joe Washington in on this passing down for Joe Theismann. And Theismann slipped. Looked to be a mix-up. Howie Long on the cover-up.
Well, that's embarrassing. I know what Joe did is probably catch his foot on the center. Now, yep, there it is. You see the center caught. That's about the only way a quarterback ever falls down coming back out of there. But that happens a lot more often than you'd like to see. Jeff Bostic got his foot right in the way. Embarrassing a bit.
And here's Jeff Hayes back at his 15-yard line. Greg Pruitt back for the punt. Pruitt averaging 9.5 yards per punt return rifle.
He doesn't tell him to get off the field and mind their own business, but he does his job.
It is a first down and 20. Back at the 23. Tyson can't find anyone. Howie Long and Lyle Alzado bring him down.
You know, you'd say, Joe, why don't you throw the ball? I mean, anywhere you throw it has to be better than taking the punishment of a hit. But as we take a look at the coverage, here's the wide shot. You see Joe going back. Now take a look to the left of your screen. He's trying to throw a screen pass. But Rod Martin is standing right in the middle of the screen, so he can't throw the ball. He can't throw the ball away because if you look, all of his receivers are perfectly covered. If he throws in the middle, it's grounding the ball. So he does about the only thing left.
And he now has a second down and 32. Back. Penalty marker thrown as the ball was batted down. Looked to be Alzado, and there's Howie Long in an animated discussion.
There we go again.
Mark May, the Redskin right guard, and the left defensive end, Howie Long, who said before the game, you know, we're not very welcome when we travel, talking about the Raider Ball Club. Howie said, would you want your daughter to marry a Raider? First quarter with 2 minutes remaining. Play action. And the Raiders did not go for it. A one-handed sack by Howie Long.
You think those fellas aren't strong? Now, Joe Theismann weighs almost 200 pounds, and although he looks like a midget, he's 6 foot tall. At least it says that in the program. And to be able to take a man like that with one hand and absolutely stuff him, that's what the official was calling here. He had no chance to get away from Long, even though he only had him by one arm. Look at this. Boop. Thank you very much. And now it's their first 3rd and 15.
And the Raiders with 3 sacks for 27 yards. Now the Redskins on the move. Big rush. And Tyson pulled down by Long. Howie Long with a significant sack with 5 minutes, 8 seconds left, 4th quarter.
Came from the outside on the right. And this is one thing that I'm sure Joe would like to have another attempt to try and handle, because he knows you can't get caught at this time in the ball game. Time is one thing. They're under 5 minutes on the clock. The field position is everything.
That's the 4th sack for the Raiders.
That's what I play. Offense gets headlines of glory every day. Running and catching men appeal to the mob, but I'd rather be tackling and doing my job. This long's not short on quarterback sacks, and I love to sit on those running backs. We wear the silver, we wear the black. We never retreat, we always attack.
In the 80 years of the National Football League, over 18,000 men have played this game. Many great players. Of those 18,000 plus players, 171 have ended up in this final glorious destination. Of those 171, only 7 have been defensive ends.
Number 75, Howie Long, certainly belongs among those 7. In 13 seasons with the Raiders, Long was selected to a team record 8 Pro Bowls, won a championship in Super Bowl 18, and was a member of the NFL's all-decade team of the 1980s. But these honors are not what define him.
Howie Howie Long was tough. I mean, Howie Long came from some place where they made tough guys, because he was a tough guy right off the bat, right out of the chute.
Howie did it so effortlessly, and it happened so quick. It was like a boxer. It was a combination. It was jab, boom, bang. Plus, maybe one of the smartest guys I've ever been around on the field. I've been blessed to play with really smart players. Ronnie Lott, he got it. Charles Haley, as good as there was. Joe Montana, what can I say? Howie Long is right there.
The thing that you forget about him is he's smart. And I think a lot of times guys think that because a guy's a lineman that, he's dumb. And Howie disproves that. I think he could probably do anything he wants.
Since his retirement from the game, Long has used his brains and talents to pursue careers in both acting and broadcasting.
Heck, when we moved to Los Angeles, we started calling him Hollywood. You knew it was a matter of time before he got down there.
You know, when I was a kid dreaming about the NFL, this is exactly how I thought it would be.
However, there was one aspect of pro football that Long did not fully anticipate.
I don't think anything that I will ever experience in life is anywhere near as challenging, demanding, or intimidating as professional football. I don't think any form of work that I take on in the future will be as difficult.
Besides hard work, pro football also taught Long versatility.
He could play all over it. Some guys get so special, I have to be on this side and I have to be open side. Howie used to go and play like a piano. He'd play up and down the line of scrimmage. Let me have this guy. He'd play over the tackle, over the guard, over the center, over the other guard, over the other tackle, and he'd put him any place when he'd whip a guy.
Long has carried his multi-dimensional abilities with him off the field, and that is why he has found success in his other careers. He has already starred in several feature films and is a mainstay on Fox NFL Sunday, for which he won an Emmy in 1997.
My life has been just a ride, and I don't necessarily know where it's going, but I'm enjoying the ride. I didn't ask to be in the movies. I didn't ask to be in the NFL. I didn't ask to go into broadcasting. Things just seemed to pop up for me.
The Howie Long of today has come a long way from being a gritty second-round long shot from Villanova. Despite all he has achieved, he will always be remembered, first and foremost, as a football player.
To say it was an interesting week, you guys know I'm nervous as hell sitting here watching the games on TV. Being there, and it was an exciting week, I think, for everyone. It was also a stressful week. I think it was stressful for Diane. It was stressful for me to a great extent. And I think it wore on a little bit. I think they were excited about the prospects and certainly understood how significant it was that they were playing each other on the same field in the NFL and how rare that is. I think the week leading up to it, with all the media coverage and, day in, day out. And I think it's also stressful for their teammates because, one of the things that people don't factor in is you're sitting in a meeting room with your teammates who are your brothers and you love them, and your brother's up on film and they're dissecting him. It's an uncomfortable situation. And I felt to a certain extent for William Hayes. I felt for Kyle's line mate, Jordan Mills, because they're going head to head with their brother. The Kyle situation was probably the most stressful situation of the week. And Kyle is, as Kyle talked about, Kyle is a very emotional player. I think he'd worked himself up into somewhat of a lather leading up to the game. And understandably, after the game was embarrassed by him losing his cool. He felt like he let his teammates down. He let the Bears down, and I'd be surprised if that ever happens again. The good news that comes out of it is, and as you see with Chris coming off the sideline, and it's something that we always talk about as a family, and I know you guys know how close they are, is that regardless of what the odds are, regardless of what the situation is, your brother is your brother, and you take care of your brother. And Chris knew that Kyle had lost it and kind of gone a little bit beyond the line of, as Kyle mentioned, you don't back down from a fight, but you certainly don't get thrown out of the game. And I think Kyle understands that, and that won't happen again. Kyle is a sweetheart. People find that hard to believe now, but Kyle is a sweetheart. But, Kyle has an edge, and he just needs to rein that in. I had an edge. Chris has an edge. Kyle has an edge.
You play this sport. You
Right.
You better have it. I will say this. We feature all families. We feature the Mannings, Eli, and Peyton, and rightfully so. But I think it's nice to see the face of the NFL. But if you turn and look at those two guys right there, tattoos, junk on their face, just two massive guys. I mean, to me, that's the NFL right there. And these are great kids.
I've always told them, this is who you have. We sit around the dinner table. These are the people that will jump in front of a bus to save your rear end. And I think Kyle fully understands that now. After the game, seeing the replay of the game, seeing his brother, he wasn't aware. And he also wasn't aware of what he had done in the midst of the melee. He had really gone beyond
they're
the line.
not there may be some fines, Mike, from this, but I will say this. Kyle, the one person Kyle will listen to is his brother.
Yes. Right.
And when Chris came running out there like that, you're sitting here, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He was going to save him from himself. Yeah. That's what he was going to do.
And I told Kyle, I said, look, Kyle, that's not who you are, and I know you're embarrassed, and you live and learn from it. Each week is a learning experience for a rookie player, and I said to Kyle, but I'll be surprised if that ever happens again.
Huh? Well, I don't think it'll be big, but I know I won't be Uncle Mikey. Because those letters that they're going to get, they'll probably take it out on me. But, I'm glad he didn't make contact with the kick and didn't get thrown out. And I think Chris will get fined, too. It's not a foul to leave the bench area, but you can't enter the fight area. But I think, as you said, he defended
if you're entering the fight area to pull the 320-pound brother who's lost his head. I mean,
understand.
I think Chris you could see what Chris's 100% intent was. And William and Kyle have spoken, and they're good. And Chris has great teammates, and Kyle has great teammates. And, I'll be thankful if this doesn't happen again for a long time.